Hello all. On behalf of COTEC and ESLA, I would like to welcome you to this webinar where the shortlisted applicants for the COTEC-ESLA Collaboration for Impact Award applicants will present their work. We did receive applications from 7 countries, and this was the second time we had the award, and we were very happy that it was, again, a great success. So thank you for all the applications.
Thank you, Anu, and welcome to everyone. And thank you for joining us. We are very excited that we had the opportunity to hold this award once again. And we look forward to welcome new applications in 2026. So the next application will open probably sometime next year, where you will be receiving further details, but the award will be given in 2026. We are very pleased, both the occupational therapists and us speech-language therapists, COTEC and ESLA, we are very pleased on our collaboration, because it is very important that in our professions we appreciate each other and we collaborate with each other for the benefit of our clients and our patients. So thank you all again for joining, and enjoy the webinar.
Yes, enjoy the webinar.
El proyecto Comunica fue desarrollado para abordar esta problemática. Su objetivo principal es permitir que los pacientes puedan comunicarse lo antes posible, de modo que puedan expresar sus necesidades y emociones, lo que les ayudará a reducir la sensación de vulnerabilidad durante su estancia hospitalaria. El primer paso del proceso es identificar la necesidad de intervención, y aquí es donde el personal médico juega un papel clave al reconocer qué pacientes podrían beneficiarse de soluciones alternativas de comunicación. Una vez identificada la necesidad, se realiza una interconsulta con el equipo del proyecto para coordinar la intervención. A continuación, el logopeda y el terapeuta ocupacional evalúan al paciente de manera conjunta. El logopeda se enfoca en la parte de la comunicación verbal y no verbal, mientras que el terapeuta ocupacional se encarga de evaluar cómo facilitar el acceso a los dispositivos que les permiten comunicarse. El trabajo de ambos profesionales es muy complementario y es esencial que colaboren estrechamente a lo largo de todo el proceso. La comunicación aumentativa y alternativa no es un concepto nuevo, pero en el ámbito hospitalario a menudo no se le ha dado la relevancia que merece. Sin embargo, cuando un paciente se enfrenta a la imposibilidad de expresarse, no solo impacta su salud mental, sino también su recuperación física. Por eso es vital que los pacientes tengan acceso a medios alternativos de comunicación que les permitan interactuar con su entorno expresando sus necesidades, disminuyendo de esta manera la angustia y la frustración. Nos gustaría compartir un testimonio de uno de nuestros pacientes. Este testimonio ilustra la importancia que tiene la comunicación para estos pacientes en este momento. Vamos a tomar un momento para escucharlo.
Fernando, cuéntanos un poco lo importante que ha sido para ti que el personal del hospital se haya parado en tu cama para comunicarse contigo o haya cogido algún sistema de comunicación para hacerlo.
A ver, sí, para mí lo más duro ha sido no poder expresar o comunicar lo que yo necesitaba o decir a cualquier enfermero o enfermera, y ha cambiado mucho cuando he podido coger la tabla de comunicación. Enseguida pues te puedes comunicar y expresarte. Para mí lo más duro ha sido no poder comunicarme con ellos.
De escuchar, el poder comunicarse cambia drásticamente la experiencia de un paciente, reduciendo la frustración y la ansiedad, mientras mejora su capacidad para interactuar con los profesionales de la salud y sus familiares. Los comentarios de los pacientes que han formado parte de este proyecto han sido abrumadoramente positivos. El uso del dispositivo de comunicación aumentativa y alternativa les ha permitido expresarse de manera más eficaz, lo que ha llevado a mejoras significativas en su experiencia hospitalaria. Desde el inicio del proyecto hemos observado beneficios considerables, no solo para los pacientes, sino también para el personal que interactúa con ellos. Se ha reducido el nivel de estrés tanto en los pacientes como en los profesionales. La comunicación entre médico y paciente ha mejorado, lo que ha enriquecido la calidad de la atención médica proporcionada. Además, la salud mental de los pacientes que utilizan comunicación aumentativa y alternativa ha mejorado notablemente. Todo esto ha contribuido a nuestro objetivo de humanizar la atención dentro de nuestro hospital. Hasta ahora hemos intervenido con 8 pacientes, con edades entre 14 y 70 años. La mayoría de estos pacientes han respondido bien al uso de los tableros de comunicación y en algunos casos a los comunicadores dinámicos. Los pacientes más jóvenes y aquellos con conocimientos previos de tecnología se han adaptado más rápidamente a los dispositivos. Sin embargo, hemos encontrado algunos desafíos. Por ejemplo, en un caso no se logró una comunicación efectiva debido a la combinación de dificultades motoras y del lenguaje del paciente. A pesar de los avances, aún hay áreas que debemos mejorar. Por ejemplo, hemos tenido problemas con la falta de soportes adecuados para fijar los dispositivos cuando los pacientes están en cama, especialmente aquellos que requieren cambios posturales frecuentes. También ha habido dificultades con algunos pacientes que experimentan confusión o deterioro cognitivo, lo que ha dificultado el uso efectivo de la tecnología. Estamos trabajando arduamente para abordar este problema y hacer que los dispositivos sean más accesibles y fáciles de usar. En resumen, el proyecto Comunica nos ha demostrado que la comunicación es un componente vital en la atención al paciente y en su bienestar. Al implementar sistemas de comunicación aumentativa y alternativa, hemos logrado que los pacientes puedan expresarse más fácilmente, lo que ha impactado positivamente en su experiencia hospitalaria y en su recuperación. Aunque aún hay mucho trabajo que hacer, los avances alcanzados hasta ahora son alentadores y estamos decididas a seguir perfeccionando el proyecto para asegurar que cada paciente que tenga acceso a las herramientas de comunicación necesarias desde el minuto cero y podamos evitar momentos de ansiedad e impotencia generados por la falta de comunicación. Porque la comunicación es un derecho que transforma vidas y experiencias.
Díodh ó Éire. That's hello in our Irish national language. My name is Shona O'Donnell and I'm the NCSE Occupational Therapy Manager. I'm joined by my colleague Jessica McCluskey, the NCSE Speech and Language Therapy Manager. Ta ahas oran Jeshavé Ugan, Lord Shliven you. We are delighted to have the opportunity to present to you today on the impact and outcomes of OT and SLT collaboration in the provision of school supports. Thank you to COTEC and ESLA for this opportunity. We both work with the National Council for Special Education, who aim to build schools' capacity for inclusion. There are a number of professionals employed by the NCSE, including speech and language therapists and occupational therapists. They work together to develop school and teacher capacity to bring about improved educational experiences for all students. Over the last decade, many researchers and organisations, including Starling, Partnering for Change, Fitzgerald and McCobb, BASIC, Ebbels, etc., have written extensively on the benefits of therapists working collaboratively within educational contexts. These researchers have focused on environmental modification, in-school coaching, co-professional knowledge generation, and professional pathways for interventions, all of which manifested in the in-school therapy project. The NCSE therapy model of support focuses on school and teacher capacity building. An interdisciplinary team of speech and language therapists and occupational therapists work in partnership with schools and teachers to provide educationally relevant interventions and strategies that focus on inclusion, participation, and the well-being of all students. There are a number of key principles that govern the practice of NCSE therapy. Firstly, in line with contemporary evidence, school-based practice, NCSE therapists consider the school as a client when planning interventions and supports. This means the school and therapists must decide together the priority areas of focus for therapy provision and ensure that it is guided by the school's needs, curriculums, and the Department of Education's policies and procedures. The principle of collaborative partnership focuses on shared goal setting, co-creation, and shared responsibility for outcomes. Finally, the principle of teacher capacity building enables a strength-focused approach, providing in-class coaching and modelling in the class and school environment. NCSE therapy provides educationally relevant interventions across a multi-tiered model of support as seen here on the slide. Tiered models of support are widely researched in the education and therapy literature. This particular model reflects the language used in education along the left-hand side of the pyramid and tiered models from therapy literature on the right-hand side. Regardless of the tier, the focus of the work is on building the capacity of the teacher to deliver interventions that improve the student educational outcomes of independence, academic achievement, happiness, and end-of-school outcomes. In line with Joyce and Showers and Guskey, we know it's not enough to simply train teachers to implement interventions. Modelling and coaching is required for transfer of learning and change in teaching practice to occur.
From September 2018 to December 2023, the NCSE were responsible for the rollout of innovative pilot to trial the educationally focused therapy support. This in-school therapy project involved assigning an OT and SLT to a set of schools. Over the course of 35 months, NCSE, OT and SLTs worked together in collaborative partnership with 75 pilot schools. The overall aim of this work was to build the capacity of educators to promote the inclusion, participation and well-being of students. A 6-month subsection of this data formed part of the winning submission for the COTEC-ESLA Collaboration Impact Award, which we will now present. NCSE therapists gathered data on the impact of their work in 4 main ways. A contract tracker, which logged activity data, detailed notes, which provided a narrative description of the work with teachers and schools, pre- and post-training questionnaires to monitor the impact of professional learning delivered to teachers, and finally, the interprofessional intervention planning forms, which recorded the collaborative planning of an intervention and the subsequent outcomes. 4 thematic domains were iteratively developed with reference to data gathered and in consultation with key stakeholders. The 4 domains are educator capacity, educational outcomes for students, mindset, and resourcing. These domains facilitate the description of the impact of OT and SLT on the inclusive journey of schools. From January to June 2021, data was collected in 75 schools. 1,397 teachers worked with 12 NCSE therapists. For 99% of these teachers, the collaborative partnership had a positive impact on their confidence and capacity to implement therapy-focused strategies and approaches in the classroom and had a ripple effect on 850 students. 102 of these teachers delivered long-term, intensive in-school interventions. These teachers reported positive student outcomes in terms of inclusion and participation for these interventions, validating a principle of our practice that we can have student achievement through teacher development. 25 of the 43 interventions completed had measurable post-intervention outcomes which aligned with 2 of the NCSE's educational outcomes of independence and academic achievement. 783 students participated in these interventions, and 560 of these students had educational outcomes which were fully or partially achieved. A notable outcome of the collaboration between OT, SLT and schools was a change in the mindset of these school communities in relation to their use of resources and the influence of therapy supports on their journey towards inclusion. There was a 95% reduction in educational staff seeking individualised therapy supports for named students. Only 3% of schools accessing NCSE in-school therapy sought additional special needs assistance in comparison to 16% of schools who were not accessing in-school therapy. These quantitative stats are recognised at an organisational level as being significant in terms of Ireland's journey towards having a world-class inclusive education system. So we originally captured practice data to advocate for this model of therapy work in schools. And as of June 2024, the impact of this collaborative data is now a permanent educational therapy service in Ireland that will continue to collect data to measure impact, improve the quality of support we provide, and advocate for this model of school-based therapy. Gurv Mila Mahagwith Galer.
Hi there, my name is Nikki Lowe and I'm currently the Clinical Lead Occupational Therapist in North Glasgow Children and Adolescent Mental Health Services. And this presentation is about a joint project that was carried out in 2023 with my speech and language colleague Jess Lane, when we were both working in the National Children's Psychiatric Inpatient Unit in Scotland, and that is based in the Royal Hospital for Children in Glasgow. Unfortunately, Jess couldn't make the presentation today, so I am presenting on the behalf of both of us. So the project centred around creating and implementing a talking map version of the Children's Occupational Self-Assessment, and this is a copy here of the poster from that project. So just to give you some background, the National Child Psychiatric Inpatient Unit is located in Ward 4, as I say, in the Royal Hospital for Children in Glasgow. And they admit children between the ages of 5 years old and 12 years old for the assessment and treatment of psychiatric disorders, including eating disorders, psychosis, catatonia. There's some neurodevelopmental disorders, anxiety, depression, and sometimes suicidality. The young patients who are admitted to the unit are often experiencing symptoms of trauma, living with learning difficulties, or have complex medical histories. And all of these things can have an impact on their ability to engage in assessments and also in therapy. So as part of our OT process on the unit, we invite all of our young patients to complete a children's occupational self-assessment, or a COSA, as it's also known, and that supports the children to be involved in identifying tasks and activities that they are good at or need help with, as well as occupations which are meaningful or not meaningful to them. And this information then informs treatment goals and ensures that we have person-centred care plans. Sometimes when children come onto the unit, we find that parents have their own ideas of the goals that the children should be working towards, and very often, if the child isn't able to tell us what they really want, that's the goals that we would be looking at. This is a really helpful way of us identifying the children's own goals and own desires. Typically, this assessment is administered via a questionnaire, which the children are then guided to complete. A talking mat is a communication tool which supports patients to express their thoughts and opinions by breaking down questions into more manageable pieces. And this reduces the amount of processing demand and also removes the need for verbal interaction, many of which our patients, find that very difficult. Traditionally, I think therapists, maybe who are not speech and language therapists, might have associated a talking mat as a tool for children or for those with learning disability or communication problems. However, I've noticed now that in my own practice, that's categorically not the case. And hopefully you'll see that there are different applications for it as well. So the problem that we had is the only sort of, and the OT for the unit, I had found that many of the children were unable to engage with the COSA. Their engagement, as I'd said before, could be impacted by a number of factors. Many of the patients who come into the unit are experiencing complex or systemic trauma. Some have significant learning or communication needs. Many have cognitive dysfunction, and this is in addition to their mental illness. So all of these things can mean that they just do not have the cognitive, memory or communication load to meet the demands of an assessment. So talking mats was something that I'd seen my speech and language colleague carrying out on the unit a few times, and I'd wondered if there was a potential solution there. So together, Jess and I developed a talking mat version of this assessment, the COSA, and we split it into two submats, what am I good at and what is important to me. And in line with talking mat guidelines, we had to kind of simplify the number of choices that the young person would need to make. That's called the top line, which you can see at the top here. And if you can see, we had to reduce the questions down to 3. The first part was what's important to me, where we asked the children to tell us what was important, what was kind of important, or what was not important. And the second mat was what am I good at? And they would then categorise their choices to I am good at this, I am okay at this, or I am not so good at this. So, oh, sorry, if I could just go back. So we made our visuals using a software package called Widget. And you can use any visuals or any package that you like, but that helped us to represent the questions. And you can see from the bottom table there, that was just some of the visuals that we used, but you can adapt these to suit the young person or adapt them to suit the adult, whatever you need to do. And the visuals were also, we provided them with blank cards so that they could draw on a picture or they could write maybe things that weren't included in the COSA. The children were then supported to go through the two mats separately to identify things which were important to them, but which they needed help with. So we had very positive outcomes from using the talking mats. The feedback from the children was very good. They enjoyed using them. They found it quite an enjoyable process. Children who would normally not have been able to engage in their own OT treatment planning until much later in their admission were able to be involved directly in setting and prioritising their treatment goals. The project also supported other professions in the unit to recognise ways in which talking mats could be used to enhance patient and treatment care. And Jess and I were very honoured to win the Collaboration Award from the Council of Occupational Therapists for European countries and from the European Speech and Language Association. This is an award that's specifically celebrating the impact of collaborative practice between occupational therapists and speech and language therapists. And we were both lucky to win tickets to our respective professional European conferences. So Jess had went to the ESLA Congress in Bruges, Belgium, and I went to Krakow in Poland in October this year, and both of us enjoyed that opportunity very much indeed. There's a very strong HP team in our unit, and all of the professions are involved in collaborative working. And this project is just an example of that and how important it is for positive patient outcomes. Thank you so much for listening to us, or to me, I should say. And if you have any questions, please do get in touch. These are our email addresses. As you can see, Jess now works as an associate for Talking Mats, such as her belief in the product. So please do feel free to get in touch with either of us. And that is the website for Talking Mats if you're interested in that product. There are other products available. This was just the one that we happened to have access to on the ward and found very useful. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed that.